What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Blizzard added their first mini event to the game, and I was really excited for this, but there's definitely some things they could do to improve it. The reaction to the most recent major event was pretty bad. Now, I'm not going to say that everyone absolutely hated it, because some people definitely enjoy playing Lucio Ball, but I think the overwhelming majority of the player base either didn't like the event, or at best, they were just disappointed in what they got. The same thing that they've had year after year. I don't want to go into it too much because I've already talked about it in previous videos, but one of the things I suggested was Blizzard having mini events that focus on a single character and they only last for a week or so. And then by sheer coincidence, they ended up doing the Nano Cola Challenge, which has d.va. One of the things you have to understand about the Overwatch dev team is how they add stuff to the game. They actually talked about it briefly in a recent interview. There's a crawl, walk, run phase for every single thing that gets added to the game. So first they have the initial design and concept, then when they add it to the game, it's the crawl phase. And believe it or not, the looking for group and the endorsement system is still considered to be in the crawl phase, which means they have lots of other stuff that they're planning to add and change to that system. In fact, the guild system, which I've talked about before, might actually be the walk or the run version of the looking for group. We'll have to wait and see on that. But anyways, the point is, when they're adding new stuff, they always like to add little tiny things to see if the players actually like it before they go and they start adding bigger aspects of it. For example, when they do that with maps, with like the jump pads for Oasis, they found that people didn't really care for it, so they just didn't really bother to add it in any of the other maps that were for the competitive ladder. Instead, they added the jump pads to stuff that was more kind of just for fun, like the arcade maps. Let's get back to the mini events and talk about how they can be improved. The first thing is when Blizzard actually drops these mini events. Now, when I originally suggested it, I said it should be in between the major events so that it would give you something to do in that big amount of downtime. But this event happened at the end of the summer games, which were still going on. Now, I realized for this specific one, there was a little bit of an issue because they just had the d.va animation and the Busan map announcement and all that sort of stuff. So the timing is all kind of weird because they wanted to get everything kind of flowing together. I get that. But in the future, these mini events should be taking place between the major events, not at the tail end of them. The second thing is a pretty big one, and that's when the patch actually gets added to the game. Because this time, Blizzard, you added the patch about 4 or 5 hours before the competitive season ended, and your matchmaking system kicked everyone out, meaning that tons and tons of people got minus 50 SR, and they were very angry about it. So you don't just kind of dump that patch in the middle of the day when people are playing on the ladder, especially not on the last day of the season. That just doesn't make any sense. Whenever you're going to put out a patch, even if it's during the middle of the season, you should disable the competitive ladder for at least 30 minutes or an hour or however long it needs to be so that the patch doesn't boot people out. And I would go further and add a blanket no penalty for leaving phase for at least that 30 minutes to an hour during that patch update process. So no one should be getting kicked out of the game, having their account suspended for however long, and losing the 50 SR because you're updating a patch in the middle of the day. That just doesn't make any sense. Let's move on to the rewards and how you get them. There's actually quite a few in this mini event, more than I would have expected. Granted, they are sprays mostly, but they're still pretty decent quality. I do like how Blizzard handled this though. They went to a route similar of what they do on a weekly basis with the arcade, where you win a couple of matches, you get a reward, you win a couple more, and so on and so forth. So you can do that 3 times, and it works the same way with the mini event. The first 3, you get a couple sprays, the second 3, you get an icon, and the last 3, you end up getting the epic skin. And then there's a remainder of sprays that you get by watching live streams. For the in-game stuff, I definitely like that because it feels like you're actually earning the items as opposed to simply getting lucky and having the thing that you want. Now, as far as the live stream goes, I'm not really too sure about that. I understand why Blizzard is doing this. They want to bring attention to certain live streams to have to promote the game and this and that. But I get the feeling a lot of players feel like having to go and watch these live streams is a chore. Like, they wouldn't normally do this. They don't really have any interest in those particular streamers. People are already watching who they generally want to watch. But having to go and watch somewhere up to 8 hours of a live stream, it just feels like it's a chore. It's bothersome rather than enjoyable. And I have a feeling quite a few players go to these live streams, leave the window open, and then either just not pay attention to it, or they end up going to sleep or whatever, and they just let the live stream go so they can get the drops. That's not a really good way to give out this stuff. Now, I'm not saying that the live stream method should be completely thrown away. I just don't think that it should have that big of a requirement. Watching 8 hours of streams that you really didn't care to, I mean, I don't think a lot of players are going to really enjoy that. Here's how I would change it. First of all, everyone gets something for simply logging in during the event. Blizzard has already done this quite a few times in the past. It could just be an icon or a spray. Doesn't have to be anything amazing. You log in, you get the item. And then keep the system they have now where you win 3, you get an item, you win 3 more, you get something, and then you win a final 3 and you get a last thing. But I would change it so that it kind of varies up, because right now, the mini event is just overly heavy with sprays. So add other things that you might not normally be able to add during other events. Victory poses, I think, is probably the easiest thing that they could probably add. And I would also increase the quality of the items as you progress. So the first thing would be a rare, the second thing would be an epic, and the third thing would be a legendary. And while I think the Nano Cola D.va skin is cool, I really think if you're going to have these mini events, you should probably have a legendary as the final reward. If you're going to keep the stream watching thing in order to give out the items, I think that's okay, but it should be really limited. Maybe only a couple of things. And also keep in mind that almost everyone who's going to try to get that stuff are going to do it in the first day or two. So that means whoever is live streaming that first day is going to get a massive increase in the viewership, and the people who are getting it at the tail end of the event are probably going to have no increase in viewership because everybody already got the item they want. So, I mean, just keep that in mind. Another thing that you could do is having an achievement for the mini event and have that give away some sort of reward. But I would have to stress, really emphasize, do not make the achievement character specific, because you're going to create a ton of problems if you do that. Because I can just imagine you're going to have all of these quick play matches, people logging in, they all need to play d.va in order to get that achievement. So whenever someone jumps in and they grab d.va, you're going to have 3 or 4 other players who are just constantly leaving the matches, rejoining, leaving, rejoining, leaving, because they're all trying to get to play that character in order to do the achievement. Just remember what happens whenever a new hero gets released. It's kind of the same deal. Everybody wants to play the new thing, and then when they can't get it, they just leave the match, and it causes all kinds of problems. So achievement would be really cool, but do not make it character specific, otherwise you're going to have lots of problems. Those are my thoughts on it. I think mini events have a tremendous amount of potential, and with a little bit of fine-tuning, they could be a truly great addition to the game. What do you guys think? What character would you like to see in the next mini event? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.